Welcome back to another episode. This is the third episode in a series of 3 for our agility training. I'm back at the Tom Rose School and we're going to be going over jumps. Let's get started.
Okay, in teaching the tire jump, the biggest problem that people incur with a puppy is the puppy will go around and go through here, or if it's a little bit higher, you just simply crawl under it. We want him to jump through it. In fact, we talk about not allowing any mistakes to occur during our training. So we want to prevent mistakes by the way we set up our props. In this case, we're going to use this device, which is a flexi lead. And the idea is we can pass that through the tire. We can have the helper over here. And then when the handler tells the dog to jump, I can take in the slack as the dog is coming, and then once they're through, I can let them come on to me, or you can command them to do something different. But the main thing is, this has a very light tension that kind of guides the puppy, and it's an easy way to prevent a problem. If the puppy would go around, I can simply lock it, and then the handler can go and take care of the problem. Okay, let's go ahead and try it once.
And that's a key detail that I remembered from you teaching when I came through the school, to always minimize mistakes.
Right.
So if your dog doesn't make any mistakes during training because you take the proper steps like Tom's explaining right now, then you're not going to run into issues in the future, and it's going to make the whole training process significantly easier.
Right.
So take the time to do the additional steps in the beginning. It is worth your while, trust me.
You asked a minute ago about how many reps would you do of an exercise. I would do as many reps as it takes to never have a mistake.
Yes.
Everything is right. In the case of a halt with a sit, when they're all perfectly straight, then I'm ready to move on to something else. But I don't want to quit until I have it correct.
Right.
So she's hooking her dog up. Now with a puppy, you could have a handler hold the dog. Now she's going to leave her dog and come over to me and grab the flexi. And now she can guide the dog through the jump. And she could throw a ball if she wanted to. Sometimes throwing a ball when it's dealing with jumps will cause the dog to strike the jumps because they're going too fast, they're not jumping correctly, and they smash through things.
So if you can, would you prefer to use food as a reward on this exercise?
Probably would be easier, but if in the effort of trying to get speed, most people want to use a toy.
Right. So would it be okay for her to hand me the flexi and I go to the other side, or do you want to bring the dog back around and start in the same starting point that we did from the beginning?
I usually always teach one way.
So they don't make the mistake of wanting to go back.
And that's probably overthinking it.
Like you said before, if we minimize mistakes,
right.
You know,
that's
and
exactly why I do it.
During a test or a trial, they can't jump through and go back.
Right.
So I think that's an excellent point and worth mentioning.
Tire.
And he's looking for his ball.
Okay.
But you see that he bumped the jump that time.
Because he was anticipating the reward.
Because of the ball, yeah.
Okay.
So should we bring him back around, do it again? I'll hold the leash and then she comes around and grabs it from me again?
Yeah.
So we can prevent him from turning to the side? And that was because he wanted to get the toy, right?
Right.
So that's something I've talked about in my videos as well, reward placement. Where the dog is anticipating the reward, it could determine what the dog does. So like a big example I run into clients when I'm working with them, they're doing a come when called and they reward the dog off to the side.
Right.
Well, that teaches the dog to come into their side instead of center position. So keep reward placement in mind when you're training your dog.
Sometimes toy rewards can cause more trouble than they save.
I've noticed that as well on occasions. But like you said, it does increase the speed, so it is an excellent tool.
Oh yeah.
Tire. Good.
So would she throw it, or do you think it would be better for her to do a couple more repetitions?
If she throws it, it's liable to run out of range of the flexi and
I think I was hit you
hit
too
the
or
end of the
something.
Yeah.
line.
So then
throwing it would be nice. If she did throw it, I'd throw it this way rather than this way to keep the dog away from her.
And that's something that she would want to start when there's no need for a helper standing on the other side at that point.
We could actually do that step. We could go ahead, the dog's going through it reliably now. So we take the flexi off, take the dog back again, Now this time she'll throw the dog towards the kitchen area over there, okay?
Tire.
Okay. Now she's a little bit late on the throw. You'd like to throw when the dog's feet are in the air.
You don't want to throw before because
Or
the dog
after.
might miss.
Right, and
then-
cause crooked, yeah.
So let's try it one more time.
But throw while the dog's in the air.
Tire.
That was better. And he pretty much didn't strike the jump. Then when we go to the jumping chute, we're going to be adding speed once again, but we just want to get it correct before we move on to the next step.
And with a dog like this, they're going to have to jump with the tire higher. So
Right.
we would slowly start bringing it up.
Yeah, maybe we should do that once, just.
Now with this step, once you start raising it, would you want to go back and do a couple with the flexi to make sure the dog jumps?
It probably would be a good idea.
And so this one, I'll feed it to her. She'll hook the dog up. She'll come
Yeah.
around. She'll grab the flexi from me, do a couple, making sure that she's having the dog jump
Right.
through. And then we would move back
Right.
to the step that we did before.
Again, you're blocking mistakes.
Okay,
If the
perfect.
dog went around the jump or around the tire,
Now you have a
then
new
we're
problem.
thinking, now we got this to deal with. It's a lot easier to prevent mistakes than fix mistakes, that's for sure.
Tire.
Good.
And of course, you know, her dog has done this exercise before, but for anyone else, they're going to want to do tons of repetitions of this even before they move on to the next step. And like you said, the dog should be doing it where you're not having to help anymore,
Right.
but you still have it there in case you do need to help. So
Yeah.
like right there, she didn't have to help at all. He
Right.
jumped, came right to her. Excellent. So then we could try it at that point without the flexi.
Yeah. Okay, now the dog ideally would glance at you as soon as it finishes the jump and then chase the ball away from you. Okay, which he did last time.
Tire.
Or he can catch it.
Yeah. Now, if she was to do exactly what she did and her timing was a little bit off, the dog could very easily try to come back to her, which we don't want. We want the dog to stay in the path, so to speak.
So they're getting ready for the next obstacle, but they're
Right.
still looking for guidance.
So
from
in
the
her
handler.
case, she could have thrown the ball a little earlier before the dog actually bent towards her.
So let's do one where we throw it again when the dog's in the air.
Okay. Tire.
It was much better that time.
That one was excellent. So then you would continue to do this, make sure the dog's doing it correctly, and then if you wanted to, you could add this to the jump chute, which we're going to do next.
Right, yeah.
All right, perfect.
Good. Okay, this is how we begin teaching jumping to puppies and grown dogs of any age for that matter. We call it a jumping chute, and the jumps are spaced out, should be according to the length of the dog's body. In most cases, we put them 8 feet apart and generally don't have any trouble with puppies and other dogs going through it. But we have a line of jumps, and the idea is to have the dog jumping off lead and free and able to work out his steps between jumps so he doesn't strike the jumps. And by doing this, we can raise the height of the jumps as we progress through the training to where the dog either bounces and jumps and bounces and jumps or takes a step and jumps, but goes through the whole procedure without striking and clearing each jump. The reason we started doing this is originally my wife is having trouble with a dog that she won several championships with, and the dog had struck jumps at Chute competition and hit her knees and hurt her knees, and the more she got hurt, the more she was reluctant to jump. And we were able to work through it, but the way we did it was setting up this jumping chute, because especially in Chutes and some sports, the jumps are made out of 2x material, which is very heavy, and if the dog hits it, it's easy for them to injure themselves. So by doing this, the dog gets confident, free, they're not hitting anything that's hurting, and they learn how to time their jumping, much like a track and field human running would do high hurdles and has to work out their steps between each to get the best speed without hitting the hurdles.
So this is our setup. Right here we have ring gates. We have the wall there. That way the dog can't necessarily avoid the jump. As you can see, the jumps are actually low. They're not up high. We only have one bar down. It teaches them to actually jump over it instead of just, hitting it on the way through. We also have the jump spaced out quite a bit. That way the dog has time to think about its jump before it does it. At the end here we have a tire. I would recommend that you practice the tire without the jump chute before you actually put it in the jump chute, okay? All right, guys, so let's go ahead and grab the puppies.
Jump.
After you, go ahead.
Here. Jump. Jump. Jump.
Go ahead. Oh. Go ahead, Gavin.
Willow. Jump. Jump. Jump.
Next step, Ben, you're going to take the leash off. Rocky will hold the dog, and then you'll run through. The leash actually confuses the dog and causes them to hit often. Okay, Rocky, you want to hold the dog?
Caesar.
Come on.
Good. Okay, I'll probably hit one.
Willow. Willow. Willow.
Second part would be for you to run down there, right? I'm gonna hold your dog there, and then you'll send it, okay? Okay. Thank you.
Caesar. All right. Bear. Come here, Bear. Good boy. Come on.
There we go.
Thanks again for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Remember, dog training is supposed to be fun. We'll see you guys next week.